So I want to start. William Kim is in our comments. He asked, who do you guys think is our third option? Felt like it was OG last week, but Josh Hart has been an absolute stud. So I know we talked about OG. I think the option part of it, it's funny we didn't mention Mikal either. I know, Andrew, you brought up Mikal as being a real big key. But, Andrew, I'm curious for you, when it comes to OG, watching him in Toronto, watching him with the Knicks last year, have you noticed anything different about his game and what he's brought to the Knicks offensively this year?
I think OG's always been OG. It's always about getting healthy for him. When he's healthy, he's great. And to William's question, I think it definitely has to be Mikal Bridges, because he's a guy that we saw with the Nets who could play at an all-star level with the basketball in his hands. And with teams like the Celtics who could pressure Jalen Brunson full court with big wings, you need another guy that could initiate from the perimeter perspective, right? Obviously, KAT's going to draw doubles, but we need a guy on the perimeter that could draw doubles as well. And I think Mikal Bridges could still be that guy with his increasing confidence.
And the mid-range game has obviously been great. Sean, I'm curious what you think about those guys when you're thinking about kind of the pecking order in that Knicks offense.
So I came into the season thinking Mikal would be option 3 and that he'd be the secondary creator. And it can still happen over the course of the season, as like Andrew said, as his confidence grows and he gets more comfortable in the role. But I just think that OG is probably option 3 right now. And I think, William, that's a great question, because we ask it all the time, in the Space shows and post-game prosperity, just who is option 3? And it's almost like there's an option 3, A, B, and C. But OG's just been so aggressive. Whether it's, letting it fly from 3, whether he's hitting or not, which I love. OG has a couple of games recently being 1 of 7 from 3, 1 of 8 from 3. I love that. Last week he had 25 points and 8 rebounds. He was 1 of 8 from 3, and he still shot 60% from the field. That's how great he's been. So he's getting whatever he wants around the basket. He's dunking everything in sight when he gets there. He's got the confidence in the mid-range. He can create that shot at any time. He's so strong. He literally doesn't really have a dribble move, and he's putting up 20 a game. And so when OG makes a decision to be aggressive, and beyond making the decision to be aggressive, I think what we're seeing now is OG's become comfortable being aggressive. And I think that's what's taking him to a different level. It's one thing to be aggressive. It's another thing to be comfortable being aggressive. And OG was asking for an increased offensive role in Toronto. And a lot of us kind of laughed at him, what do you want to do? But now we're seeing what he wanted, and he's getting it, and he's making it count. So I'm excited to see him continue to grow into the OG landed we all knew he would be when he got here.
I love his aggressiveness, too. He's been awesome. I have a mini heart attack every time he falls to the floor, which is a lot during games. He is always on the ground when he's near the hoop. He's making me have a heart attack every time. Ian, all right, I know we talked about the offense. I want to ask you a question. I was thinking this watching the game last night, because the Knicks put up over 130 points in back-to-back games. And we've talked on the show in the past about how when the Knicks traded for Karl-Anthony Towns, that they've just made a decision now to be a more offensive team. So I'm curious, I know you mentioned Mitch, and the Knicks now see him having a more important role. But do you think at a certain point the Knicks have just kind of said, maybe we're going to be one of those teams that just puts up so much offense that it doesn't matter if we're going to be the sort of defensive unit that's a shutdown unit, which of course feels a little opposite for Tibbs, as you mentioned, but I'm curious how you feel philosophically for them moving forward in regards to just the offense versus the defense.
Yeah, I think anybody, if you caught them in an honest moment, they would say, yes, we did sacrifice our defense for our offense. And, the big lure with KAT was kind of doing what he's doing now, knocking down shots from the perimeter. Versatile offensive player, opens up the floor. You could play 5 out, but you're going to be losing something defensively. And I think that exactly was the trade-off that they made. Now, Tom Thibodeau is never going to say that publicly, but I'm sure that he, feels like he has to make some adjustments, maybe do some things that he's not necessarily used to doing in terms of getting this team defensively where he would want it to be. And that's Thibodeau's brilliance on the defensive side. So we'll see how things progress there. I think they'll be better when you get Precious Achiuwa back. Mitchell Robinson, we talked about, I think they'll be better when he comes back. Miles McBride as well. But I think this team, more often than not, is going to have to outscore you to win games. That works in the regular season. Things slow down in the playoffs. And I was just asking people in the aftermath of the trade about that, and somebody said, hey, listen, we can get stops when we need them down the stretch of games because of the personnel, and we they acknowledged that, yes, they may have taken a step back with the trade, but they felt confident that in crunch time, last 5 minutes of a game, they get stops when they need them, and the offense will be will be so good. So that kind of was the thinking, and I think Matt, you're right on with that question.
Yeah, and it goes to Sean too, talking about OG. Just if whether it's a wing player, whether it's a big man, whether it's a smaller guard, if you can have a guy like OG to be able to say, get us a stop here, having him on the roster obviously helps a lot. Sean, I'm going right back to you because you tweeted before the game last night that you believed last night would be the first of many times that Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns both went for 35. You were so close to being. You correct. So I want to commend you for being almost right, I guess. Nice job being almost right. And when do you think is the next game that they will both score 35 points?
It's funny because coming into the game, and it was like in the first quarter when he missed the free throw. And I didn't say it out loud because I didn't want to speak into existence, but I was like, if he ends up with 34, I'm going to be sick to my stomach. And lo and behold, he ended up with 34. It's crazy. There you go. But it really just comes down, and that's what I said about, that goes back to what I said about them being, I think, the deadliest duo because they help each other. So I knew that the Suns had Yusuf Nurkic and not really a lot of size to deal with KAT at all, and they don't have the perimeter defenders or the big as a defender to deal with Jalen in the pick and roll. And so I think teams are going to struggle. The teams like the Bulls, the teams I called 40 for KAT against the Bulls, he went for 46. Nikola Vucevic can't move. It's very, very simple. Fives cannot guard KAT one-on-one, and the paint is open, so they're going to have to do it with an open paint behind him. If they switch, now your center has to guard Jalen Brunson with no help behind him. So I think that, we play the Jazz. We probably won't play the whole game. Denver, they're going for 35 each against Denver. Nikola Jokic, come out and play. Come out here and dance. It's going to be beautiful to see. And right now, I'm already pushing KAT as the best center in the Eastern Conference. And after we beat Denver, I'm going to say some things. I'm going to say some things about Karl-Anthony Towns being the best center in the NBA. And based on the most recent data we have, they won't be deniable.
Twitter notifications are going on. They're turning on for that game, no doubt about it. Andrew, from one Nick to another, I know we kind of talked about him before too. I want to go back to Josh Hart just because his shooting this year has been insane and, a little unsustainable in some ways, but I mean, he's shooting 76% from two. He's shooting 35% from three, which for him is quite solid. And I think he's also looked a lot more willing to take those shots. He said last night after the game, I'm confident in my shot. I'll leave the scared to shoot narrative for y'all. I like to play my game how I want to play my game. And he's just looked a lot more confident in that shot. So I'm curious, as you watch Hart and his shooting this year within the Knicks offense, what you've seen there as well.
Yeah, as I said earlier, they're playing more modern basketball, and I love teams that just get shots up. To Sean's point, OG is getting shots up. That's really important because it's important to get shots up. The alternative is sometimes getting a turnover, right? So when you get a great look, you want to shoot it. Campaign is another guy who's just getting shots up. Obviously, KAT is shooting 50% from three. He's getting shots up. Jalen's going to get him up. I love that this whole team is just letting it fly from three, and it's been really beneficial for them. Not only getting easy buckets at the rim, but also just getting threes up is so important and not thinking about it.
And I always think the harder the Josh Hart three, the more likely it is to go in. I love Josh Hart taking a three at the end of the shot clock. If there's 2 seconds left on the shot clock, I'm watching, I'm saying that's going in. No doubt about it. All right, my last question is an Ian-specific question. Ian, when the Knicks play on the West Coast, I need to know, what's your strategy for staying up for these games? What do you do? Is it an extra cup of coffee during the game? I know for me, I got to get home. I got to get myself a nice snack or something. What's your strategy so you can make it through these West Coast games?
It's a good question, Matthew. I do have extra coffee. I make sure put the kids to bed early. And when I'm watching the game, I don't sit on the couch because I don't want to be too comfortable. So I'll either stand up or sometimes I'll take a chair from the dining room, bring it into the living room, and sit on that. Because if I get on the couch, bad things might happen. So that's my approach on these late ones, and it's been pretty good so far.
It's a great strategy. I'm just imagining Ian 6 inches away from the TV watching the game, just analyzing everything. It's great. I love it. All right, boys, that's what I got today. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Talk back with Matthew Spenley. Appreciate it.